The first warning came from a machine that still believed I had authority. At 9:17 Tuesday morning, my phone announced that Northline Cold Storage needed approval for a compressor replacement. Warehouse 2 had warmed 6 degrees in 11 minutes. A medical shipment was inside, and a backup failure could compromise it before noon. I pressed 1 for emergency authorization. The call went to Calvin Ross, Northline's warehouse manager. His voice changed at my name. "Ms. Brooks, I can't accept authorization from you. I own 30%. Safety compliance still comes through me." An alarm sounded behind him. "Our records show you resigned from the board 4 months ago." I did not resign. "What is the temperature?" 41 and rising. The shipment held temperature-sensitive medication for 3 hospitals. 18 months earlier, I invested $420,000 because Brooke promised safety would never come second to growth. Brooke was my niece by blood and my daughter in every way that counted. After her mother died, I raised her from 11 years old. I signed school forms, attended parent conferences, and stayed awake through her worst nights of grief. She called me before every major decision until she married Tyler Voss. I told myself the distance was normal. Adults need space. I never imagined they needed my signature more than me. Authorized the repair under emergency loss prevention. I told Calvin, "I can't. Call Brooke. She's not answering." "Tyler. He told us not to contact you about company operations." I asked Calvin to email the alert and temperature reading. He agreed to send only the notice generated in my name. Before the call ended, someone shouted that the backup compressor was cycling irregularly. 3 minutes later, I was driving. Kansas City had been under a heat warning since Sunday. Dashboard read 104. Refrigerated trailers idled outside, exhaust trembling over the pavement. Workers crossed the loading yard with water bottles pressed to their necks. The guard at the gate did not raise the barrier. "I was told not to let you in." Before I could ask, Tyler walked out of the administration building. Behind him, a red warning light pulsed through an open warehouse door. "You should have called," he said. "Your warehouse called me first." That was a system error. The temperature alarm is not. We have it handled. There is a hospital shipment inside. You are no longer responsible for compliance. I never resigned. Tyler stopped beyond the gate. "The board removed you after the February incident." "What incident?" "Your judgment became unpredictable. Brooke and I had to protect the company." Brooke's name stopped me from answering too quickly. What exactly did she approve? "This is not the place." "It became the place when you locked me out of a company I helped buy." Tyler lowered his voice. "You questioned every expansion, every credit decision, every new client. I questioned decisions that put workers and product at risk. You questioned anything you did not control. That landed because it was not entirely false. Brooke and I had argued about growth. I called her careless. She called me impossible to satisfy. When she signed a grocery contract without consulting me, I reminded her that my money and introductions had made the expansion possible. I called it accountability. Outside that gate, I understood how it might have sounded like ownership of her life, but difficult was not incompetent. And disagreement was not resignation. "Let me speak to Brooke. She's meeting with the lender." "Then show me the resolution removing me." Tyler produced a tablet. He already had the document open. It said I had voluntarily resigned from the board and surrendered all safety authority 4 months earlier. Beneath it was my electronic signature, close enough to fool a stranger. It did not fool me. My real signature climbed slightly after the B in Brooks. This one stayed level. The capital M, spacing, and break between my names were almost perfect. Whoever created it had studied how I signed. Tyler swiped to a release confirming my resignation and waiving claims against decisions made after my departure. "Sign this, and we can stop treating it like a conflict. You brought that to the gate because you expected me. I hoped you would be reasonable." "No. You hoped I would be scared." I photographed the visible pages. Tyler pulled the tablet away. "You cannot copy confidential records. You just asked me to sign them. I turned to the guard. Record the time I requested access and was denied. Tyler called after me, but I kept walking. At home, I created a folder labeled Northline, Preserve. I saved the warranty notice, resignation photographs, investment transfer, operating agreement, and every message about my safety authority. I exported my text history with Brooke instead of trusting it to remain on my phone. At 6:42 a.m. courier delivered an envelope from Plains Meridian Commercial Lending. Inside was a default notice addressed to Northline, Brooke Lawson, Tyler Voss, and me. It concerned a $3.8 million credit extension approved 6 months earlier. The lender said I had personally guaranteed the full obligation. The collateral schedule listed Northline's equipment, my investment account, and my house. If Northline failed, the lender could reach nearly everything I had spent 40 years building. I called the workout department. A representative confirmed the guarantee and warned that worsening default could trigger account restrictions. She could not discuss the balance, but emailed the signature certificate. The signature looked like mine in the same way the resignation had, almost perfectly. The certificate showed that my electronic credentials approved the guarantee at 8:14 p.m. on March 16. I opened my calendar, photo archive, and travel receipts. March 16 was the second night of the Women Veterans Logistics Association reunion in St. Louis. At 8:14, I had been standing on a ballroom stage receiving a service award before more than 200 witnesses. My phone was locked in my room. I placed the certificate beside a time-stamped photograph beneath the reunion banner. Someone had not only copied my signature, someone had used my identity while I was 300 miles away. The photograph and signature certificate stayed on my kitchen table until sunrise. In one image, I was standing beneath a reunion banner in St. Louis. According to the lender's records, I was in Kansas City at the same time, pledging my home against a $3.8 million loan. Both could not be true. At 8 that morning, I called Sarah Lynn. Sarah had handled a federal contracting dispute for a veterans nonprofit I advised. She was precise and impossible to rush. When I described the forged resignation and guarantee, she told me to stop contacting Northline. Do not call Brooke or Tyler. Do not enter company property. Do not sign anything, and do not access any company account you can still open. I helped build that company. Then protect yourself, like every action will later be described by someone who dislikes you. 2 hours later, I sat across from Sarah in a bare conference room. Between us lay my old Army inspection notebook, the operating agreement, the forged resignation, the lender certificate, and the photograph proving I had been in St. Louis. The guarantee can be challenged, she said. Your travel evidence helps. But this only proves your credentials were used. It does not prove who used them. Who else would benefit? Benefit is not proof. The operating agreement confirmed my 30% ownership, permanent board seat, and safety authority. But Sarah warned me that ownership did not permit me to force my way back into the warehouse. Before we accuse anyone, we preserve the records that can tell us what happened. The word preserve took me back 18 months. Northline had begun as one aging refrigerated warehouse near the rail yard. The roof leaked over dry storage, and one compressor sometimes needed a rubber mallet to restart. But it had loyal customers and experienced workers. Brooke brought me there on a Saturday. She wore a hard hat too large for her and carried handwritten projections. Tyler explained occupancy, energy costs, and delivery routes. We are not building an empire, he told me. One site. Conservative contracts. 6 months of reserves. Brooke led me into the compressor room. You taught me that safety is a promise made before anyone is watching. She said. I want you responsible for that promise. She knew how to reach me. I had spent 26 years auditing military supply chains and another 12 reviewing federal logistics contracts. I understood temperature controls, contingency plans, and what happened when ambitious people postponed maintenance. I invested $420,000, but money was only the beginning. I introduced them to regional grocery distributors and let Tyler use my professional record in lender presentations. When the bank questioned the refrigeration system, I promised no expansion would happen without funded maintenance and replacement schedules. the acquisition was approved. Brooke hugged me in the empty office after closing. "You will always have a seat here," she said. "Not because of the money. Because this is ours." I believed her. What I did not see was how often ours became mine whenever we disagreed. When Brooke wanted a second distribution contract, I reviewed it before she could sign. When she hired an operations coordinator without asking me, I demanded the candidate's background file. When Tyler proposed leasing Warehouse 2, I marked his presentation with so many objections that Brooke closed the binder halfway through. "You do not advise me," she said. "You inspect me. I am protecting what we built. You are protecting yourself from watching me make a decision." At the time, I called that ingratitude. Sitting across from Sarah, I remembered Brooke's expression. She had not looked dishonest, she had looked cornered. Tyler understood that wound. He treated every disagreement as proof that I would never allow Brooke to lead. That explained how he might have turned her against me. It did not explain the forged signature. Sarah opened another envelope delivered to my house that morning. It came from Northline's insurer and was labeled Reservation of Rights. Northline had filed a $1.6 million spoiled inventory claim from Warehouse 2. The insurer was questioning maintenance history, alarm response, and whether Northline had disclosed earlier equipment failures. The reported loss occurred 3 weeks before the warranty call. Before Tyler stood behind the gate and told me everything was under control, I remembered the warning light behind him, workers waiting outside a locked cold room, and frost melting along the edges of wrapped pallets. Would the insurance payment cover the default? I asked. It could help. It could also explain why someone needed you officially gone before the investigation began. My safety authority had once reassured lenders and customers. If neglected maintenance caused the loss while I supposedly remained responsible, Northline could blame me. If I had resigned beforehand, they could claim the failures happened after I left. Either version used my reputation. Sarah placed the insurance letter beside the lender's collateral diagram. A red line connected Northline's debt to my home address. "I am sending preservation notices today." She listed Northline, the lender, the insurer, the refrigeration contractor, the cloud records provider, the alarm company, and the freight carriers involved in the claim. My phone rang. "Tyler," Sarah told me to answer on speaker. "What did you send the insurance company?" He asked. "Nothing yet." "Then why is a lawyer demanding our claim records?" "Because someone used my identity. If the insurer delays payment, we miss payroll. If customers hear the word fraud, they leave. You will shut down Northline and send 80 families home because you cannot accept that you are no longer in charge." For a moment, I saw the workers crossing the yard with water bottles pressed against their necks. Tyler knew exactly where to apply pressure. Sarah wrote on her legal pad, "Do not argue." "I did not resign," I said. "I did not sign that guarantee. You approved our financing strategy. Not this loan. You wanted Northline to succeed. Not by attaching my house without permission." Tyler's voice softened. "Once those notices go out, Brooke will know you chose an investigation over her company." There it was again. Not evidence. "Brooke, tell her she can call me." "She does not want to." The line went dead. Sarah watched me. "Do you still want the notices sent?" I thought about Brooke promising me a permanent seat. I thought about every time I had treated financial support as permission to direct her choices. Then I looked at the forged guarantee tying my home to debt I had never approved. Yes. Sarah sent the notices one by one. Late that afternoon, the first response arrived from Northline Security Company. They had located my retired access badge. It had not been deleted when I supposedly resigned. Someone with administrator authority had reactivated it. The badge had opened the finance office door on 3 separate nights. Sarah read the dates aloud. On the first, I had been speaking at a veterans seminar in Omaha. On the second, I had been visiting my sister outside Wichita. On the third, I had been on that ballroom stage in St. Louis while my electronic credentials approved the guarantee. Someone had carried a badge bearing my name into Northline's finance office while I was hundreds of miles away, and whoever did it had gone back 3 times. The next morning, Sarah filed a formal challenge to the personal guarantee without accusing Brooke or Tyler of forgery. Her letter disputed the signature. cited my travel evidence, and requested the application, access logs, device records, and verification history. It did not use the word fraud. Why are we being careful with people who were not careful with me? I asked. Because your goal is to make them answer evidence. Sarah said. Not give them evidence that you acted recklessly. By noon, Plains Meridian suspended new enforcement against my home while its review remained open. It was not a victory, it was time. At 2:06, a man called from a block number. Ms. Brooks, my name is Eli Grant. I supervise refrigeration maintenance at Northline. He was Northline's union safety representative. I need to know whether talking to you puts my job at risk, he said. I cannot promise Tyler will not retaliate. Honest answer. Sarah motioned for speakerphone. What can you provide? She asked. Only records I was entitled to keep. I am not stealing anything. We met after his shift in the back room of a union hall near the freight district. Eli arrived in a faded work shirt with Northline's patch removed. He carried a dented metal document box and placed it between us. Before sitting, he looked at me. I do not trust you. Then why call? Because I trust Tyler less. Inside were maintenance tickets, photographs, and union safety reports concerning Warehouse 2's compressor, corroded valves, and failing alarm relay. Across one request, someone had stamped defer in red, then another, then another. The dates began 7 months earlier. I submitted the first replacement request before the grocery expansion, Eli said. The compressor was drawing too much current. The valves were sticking. The alarm relay failed 2 tests. Who denied the work? Finance delayed the funding. Operations kept promising the next quarter. Tyler's initials appeared beside an instruction to reassess after new client revenue began. Brooks' name appeared lower on the page, acknowledging receipt. You knew the equipment was failing, Eli said. I knew the warehouse was old. That is not what I asked. The copy list included my former Northline email. I never saw this. You accepted Tyler's summaries instead of checking the records, Eli said. He pulled out photographs of rust around a valve stem, oil beneath a compressor housing, and an alarm panel with fault lights covered by a handwritten label. We asked management to pause expansion. He said. Instead, they added the hospital contract and moved more product into Warehouse 2. I wanted to blame Tyler. Eli saw it before I spoke. Your money leased that warehouse. My money came with maintenance conditions. Your name convinced everyone those conditions meant something. That hurt because it was true. I had praised Brooks' expansion and assured worried employees it would protect their jobs. I accepted summaries instead of raw reports because I wanted her success to become undeniable. You are right, I said. I should have looked harder. Eli leaned back. You wanted your niece to look successful. Yes. And now workers may lose paychecks proving you were wrong. Yes. The room went still. What happens to the workers who help you? He asked. They will not become disposable witnesses. That sounds good. It will be written down, Sarah said. No names disclosed outside formal proceedings without consent or legal necessity. I looked at Eli. And if control of Northline changes, workers will have a voice in what replaces it. You do not control that. Not yet. That was the first time I saw revenge as something other than punishment. Tyler had used ownership to silence me. I did not want my chair back. I wanted his leverage gone. Eli gave Sarah copies he had lawfully retained. The originals stayed with him. Before leaving, he showed us a sealed envelope of dated photographs stored in his union locker. If I am fired, these do not disappear. The freight carriers answered the next day with route data, temperature readings, alarm histories, and driver acknowledgments. Sarah hired a cold chain consultant. The alarm histories printed in long red columns across her conference table. 3 refrigerated trailers connected to the spoiled shipment had reported deviations before Northline said the loss began. 2 alarms were acknowledged from a Northline administrator account. A third was silenced, restored, and silenced again. The records did not identify the person behind the account, but they proved the insurance timeline was incomplete. Northline claimed a sudden failure. The carrier data showed warnings hours earlier during product transfer. Could it be software? I asked. The consultant pointed to driver confirmations, not 3 units with manual acknowledgements. Sarah notified the insurer that responsibility for the spoilage was disputed and supplied the maintenance and carrier records confidentially. She requested that no proceeds be distributed until the insurer preserved the underlying data and examined the earlier warnings. The insurer placed the $1.6 million claim under expanded review. By 5 that afternoon, Tyler knew. He sent a company-wide message saying an outside legal challenge had delayed critical insurance funds. He did not name me. He did not need to. Northline had enough cash for 9 days of payroll. Workers shared a photograph of me outside Sarah's office. Across it, someone had written, "She got her money. Now we lose our paychecks." Eli was removed from refrigeration supervision and reassigned to inventory counting in the hottest section of Warehouse 1. Tyler called it a temporary operational adjustment. Eli called it punishment. On Friday, I stood on the public sidewalk outside Northline during shift change. Sarah warned me not to cross the gate. A woman in a loading vest stepped forward. "My rent is due next week. Is your lawyer paying it?" "No." "Then why should we care about your signature?" "Because whoever used it also put this company at risk." Easy to say from outside the gate. She was right. I had retirement income, a house, and an attorney. They had a payroll countdown. "I cannot promise Northline survives," I said. "I can promise I will not hide evidence to make survival look easier." A man shouted, "Evidence does not feed kids." "No. But false records can destroy the job you think you are protecting." Most walked inside. 3 workers stayed to take Sarah's card. That evening, Sarah's forensic accountant traced the refrigeration upgrade budget. More than $310,000 had been approved for compressor replacements, control systems, and electrical work. Only a fraction reached the contractors named in the budget. The rest moved through Vantage Field Advisory. Its invoices described planning and procurement coordination. The descriptions were vague. The amounts were not. Vantage had no listed employees, no warehouse address, and no visible refrigeration work. Its organizer was Colin Mercer. Lawful corporate records showed Colin and Tyler had attended the same university and operated a failed freight brokerage together 12 years earlier. The maintenance money had been redirected through someone Tyler trusted. Still, Sarah would not let me call it theft. Former business partner is a fact. Payments are facts. Shell company is an inference. We stay with facts. On Monday, Plains Meridian delivered preserved board records in response to the guarantee dispute. One set of minutes was dated the same day as my supposed resignation. The meeting lasted 19 minutes. Tyler moved to accept my resignation and remove my safety authority. Brooks seconded the motion. The vote was recorded as unanimous. I checked my phone records. Brooke had called me that morning. We spoke for 12 minutes about her mother's birthday, the heat, and whether she should bring dinner to my house that weekend. She knew I was not resigning. Hours later, she personally voted to accept a resignation that did not exist. Hours later, she personally voted to accept a resignation that did not exist. I read the minutes until the words stopped looking like language. Brooke Lawson. Yes, my niece had not been absent, confused, or tricked by a forged document she never saw. She had attended the meeting. She had voted. Sarah closed the file. You should not call her while you are angry. I am not angry. You have been holding the same page hard enough to crease it. I released the paper. Brooke called me before I could decide what to do. Her voice was quiet. Can we meet without attorneys? Sarah shook her head. No, Tyler, Brooke added. Just us. Where? The church on Benton. The community room. That was where we had organized her mother's memorial 17 years earlier. Brooke had sat beside me at a folding table, sealing envelopes while I tried to decide which photograph belonged on the program. She knew what that room meant. Sarah insisted on waiting in the church parking lot. I agreed not to record the conversation or bring documents Brooke had not already seen. The community room smelled like old coffee and furniture polish. Metal chairs stood stacked against one wall. A paper cross made by children hung crooked above the bulletin board. Brooke sat at the same folding table we had used for the memorial. She looked smaller than she did at Northline. No blazer. No company badge. Her hair was pulled back carelessly, and dark half-moons showed beneath her eyes. I placed a copy of the board minutes between us. Her signature appeared beside the false resignation date. She did not pretend to be surprised. You voted me out. Brooke looked at the page. Yes. The answer hurt more because it arrived without resistance. You spoke to me that morning. I know. You asked whether I still made your mother's peach cobbler on her birthday. I remember. Then you walked into a board meeting and voted to accept my resignation. Her eyes filled, but her voice remained steady. Tyler said Plains Meridian would not approve the Warehouse 2 financing while you retained veto authority over major capital spending. So you removed me. We were going to restore your shares after the expansion stabilized. You cannot restore something you had no right to take. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you knowingly approved a lie. Brooke stood and walked toward the small kitchen counter. She did not pour water or touch anything. She simply needed distance. You had blocked every expansion proposal for 9 months, she said. Every contract became another inspection. Every hire became another argument. Tyler said the lender saw you as an unpredictable controlling owner who could stop the company whenever you got nervous. Tyler told the lender that. He said their committee would not approve the additional credit unless the governance problem was resolved. Did you speak to the lender yourself? No. Did you see that requirement in writing? No. Then Tyler told you I was the obstacle, and you believed him. Brooke turned. You were an obstacle. The room went silent. You did not trust me to lead, she continued. You trusted your money. You trusted your experience. You trusted the part of me that agreed with you. Every time I made a decision you disliked, you reminded me who introduced the customers, who guaranteed the first loan, who paid for the warehouse. I was protecting the company. You were keeping your hand on my life. The accusation was not invented. I had used help as proof that my judgment deserved more weight. When Brooke resisted, I called her ungrateful. When she succeeded, I treated her success as evidence that my control had worked. I should have given you more room, I said. Brooke laughed once, bitterly. More room? I was 37 years old asking permission to hire a dispatcher. That does not make the resignation real. No, it does not authorize someone to forge my guarantee. I did not know about the guarantee. Why should I believe that? Because I would not put your house at risk. You put my name on a resignation you knew was false. Her face tightened. I thought it was temporary. Fraud does not become temporary because you plan to apologize later. Brooke sat again. Tyler said we would amend the ownership after the second warehouse reached break-even. You would receive your original interest. And the lender would never know the governance papers had been changed. You were going to hide it from the lender too. We were trying to keep Northline alive. No. You were trying to make Northline large. Her expression shifted. That distinction reached her. I slid another page across the table. It was one of Eli's maintenance requests, stamped defer months before the spoilage claim. Did you see this? Yes. The compressor was failing. We believed it could operate through the expansion period. Who is we? Tyler, me, and the contractor's project manager. The contractor recommended replacement. They also gave us a repair option. For 90 days. This ticket is 7 months old. Brooke stared at the red stamp. I placed the insurer's reservation letter beside it. When did you first learn product had spoiled? The morning after the transfer. What transfer? She looked up too quickly. Brooke. Inventory was moved between the trailers and warehouse 2 during the overnight shift. Why? The warehouse alarm kept cycling. Tyler wanted the highest value medical pallets moved to trailers until the compressor stabilized. The carrier records show trailer alarms were manually silenced. I did not do that. Did Tyler? I do not know. Did you ask? He said the carrier system was generating false warnings. I leaned back. Every answer protected Tyler just enough to keep him in control and exposed Brooke just enough to make her useful if the plan failed. What did you approve after the loss? She went still. The insurer found 2 temperature reports. Brooke pressed her palms against the table. The first internal report included the earlier alarms and deferred maintenance. And the second? The second began the timeline when the main compressor shut down. Who created it? Tyler's office prepared the revised summary. Who approved it? Her lips parted, but no sound came. I already knew, you did. Brooke nodded. Why? Because the original report would have shown we operated with known equipment problems. Tyler said the insurer would deny the claim, the lender would call the loan, and 80 people would lose their jobs. So you backdated maintenance summaries. I approved corrected summaries. Do not rename it for me. Her chair scraped backward. You think this is simple because you were not there. Payroll was 6 days away. Customers were threatening to move their contracts. Tyler said the insurance proceeds were the only way to stabilize operations. And when the insurer asked who controlled safety compliance, Brooke looked down. What name appeared on the earlier records? She did not answer. My name had once reassured customers, lenders, and inspectors. After removing me, they could still use old paperwork showing I had designed the compliance system. If investigators believed the failures began under my authority, Northline could blame me. If the timeline became inconvenient, they could produce the false resignation and say I had left before the loss. Either way, I was useful. You made me the person standing behind both versions, I said. Responsible when my reputation helped. Resigned when my questions became dangerous. I never wanted them to come after you. You gave them the documents that made it possible. Brooke covered her face. For 1 second, I saw the 11-year-old girl who had slept on my bedroom floor after her mother's funeral because she was afraid everyone else might disappear too. My hand moved toward her. Then I saw her signature beside the false resignation. I lowered it. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. She looked up, startled. Love is why this hurts. Love is not why it disappears. Brooke began crying without sound. I was trying to prove I could build something without you controlling every decision. You could have left the partnership. You would have called it failure. Maybe I would have. You would have reminded me that you warned me. I probably would have. She wiped her face. Then do you understand why I did it? I understand why you wanted freedom. I do not accept what you did to get it. The room held both truths. I had used money to preserve authority over her adulthood. She had responded by approving false documents, hiding safety failures, and turning my identity into a shield. My flaw explained her resentment. It did not erase her choices. Did you create Vantage Field Advisory? I asked. No. Did you authorize the payments? Tyler said Vantage was coordinating equipment procurement and lender reporting. Did you know Colin Mercer owned it? No. Did you reactivate my badge? No. Did you use my electronic credentials? No. Did you intentionally silence the trailer alarms? No. Her answers came faster now. I believed she was frightened. I did not yet know whether I believed she was truthful. Then tell Sarah everything, I said. I cannot. Why? Because if I admit the resignation and maintenance summaries were false, the insurer freezes the claim permanently. Plains Meridian could force liquidation. Tyler says we can still correct the records quietly. Tyler has been correcting records since he decided facts were too expensive. You want me to destroy Northline. I want you to stop asking other people to carry the consequences of saving it. She shook her head. This is revenge. Not yet. The word surprised both of us. I stood. Sarah will formally challenge the board resolutions today. We will seek emergency protection against the guarantee and demand an independent accounting. If you do that, Tyler will fight. He already used my home as collateral. He will say you are trying to take the company. I no longer want the company. Brooke stared at me. I want the truth to control what happens next. I walked to the door, Aunt Marlene. I stopped. If Northline closes, those workers will blame you. They may be right to blame me for helping it grow too fast. And me? I looked back at her. You will have to decide which part is yours before someone else decides it for you. Sarah filed the board challenge that afternoon. The petition asked the court to preserve my ownership rights, prevent enforcement of the disputed guarantee, and require an independent accounting of Northline's expansion funds, maintenance budget, and related party payments. Plains Meridian responded by temporarily restricting activity in 2 of my investment accounts while it authenticated the guarantee. My home equity line was frozen the next morning. Sarah called it standard risk control. It felt like being punished while the lender decided whether my identity belonged to me. Legal fees crossed $20,000 by the end of the week. Then Tyler sued me. The complaint accused me of business disparagement, interference with contracts, and attempting a hostile family takeover. He claimed my allegations had delayed insurance proceeds and damaged employee confidence. The lawsuit arrived at my house in a thick envelope. By lunchtime, Tyler had distributed a statement to every Northline employee. It said a former owner who had voluntarily resigned was using legal pressure to regain control after disagreeing with current leadership. Former owner, voluntarily resigned, regained control. Every lie had been polished until it sounded administrative. 2 women from the Veterans Association called me that evening. Both had known Brooke since she was a teenager. One asked whether grief had made me too emotional to accept retirement. The other said family disagreements should not threaten 80 jobs. Neither asked whether I had signed the guarantee. Tyler understood public pressure better than I expected. He did not need to prove I was dishonest. He only needed people to believe I was bitter. 3 days later, I stood beyond Northline's fence while Tyler addressed employees from the loading dock. His voice carried through portable speakers. He told them outside forces wanted to dismantle what they had built. He promised payroll would be protected if everyone remained loyal and avoided spreading confidential information. Eli stood near the back in an inventory vest instead of his refrigeration uniform. Tyler raised a hand toward the warehouse. This company belongs to the people who show up for it. Several workers applauded. I watched from the same side of the gate where he had first denied me entry. My wallet felt heavy in my coat pocket. Inside was Brooke's childhood emergency contact card, faded from years of being carried. It listed me as the person to call if her mother could not be reached. I pulled it out. For 17 years after her mother's death, I never removed it. I walked to a trash can beside the visitor parking lot and held the card over the opening. I could not release it. I returned it to my wallet. My phone rang before Tyler finished speaking. Sarah had received a notice from the insurer. Their forensic review had confirmed that 2 incompatible temperature reports existed for the same spoiled shipment. One included the early alarms and unresolved maintenance warnings. The other began hours later and omitted them. The insurer was ordering separate examinations under oath. Tyler would testify alone, Brooke would testify alone, Eli would testify alone, and so would I. The examination notices arrived on Thursday. Mine was scheduled first, Brooke's next, and Tyler's last. Sarah said the separation prevented us from repairing one lie after hearing how someone else described it. Before testimony, Plains Meridian sent another notice. Northline had requested approval for an emergency asset sale. The buyer was Meridian Access Distribution of Ohio. It wanted Northline's grocery and hospital contracts, customer lists, dispatch software, and newest refrigerated trailers. It did not want either warehouse, the damaged refrigeration system, employee claims, the disputed insurance loss, or anything connected to my guarantee. They are taking everything healthy and leaving the damage behind. I said, the price would reduce lender exposure but leave Northline with 2 troubled warehouses and almost no revenue. Tyler would receive a consulting agreement. Brooke would receive a conditional release. Employees were not mentioned. How fast? 5 business days. Can we stop it? Northline is in default. We cannot force the lender. That answer forced me to abandon the private ending I had imagined, exposing Tyler, returning to my office, and proving Northline could survive under my discipline. That was not rescue. It was another version of control. My money had helped Northline expand too fast. If it survived, it could not belong to me. Sarah arranged a call with Dana Reed. Plains Meridian's senior workout officer, you have 40 minutes, Dana said. I already have a signed offer that returns cash immediately. It also abandons 2 warehouses and most of the workforce. The bank is not a public agency. No. It is a secured lender comparing recoveries. I presented the alternative Sarah and I had built overnight. Warehouse 2 would close. Its usable equipment would be sold. For leased trailers would be returned. Northline would keep Warehouse 1, reduce its delivery territory, and retain only contracts the remaining refrigeration capacity could support. A regional cooperative lender would finance an employee ownership trust if Plains Meridian accepted a discounted payoff and an independent operator managed the transition. Any valid insurance recovery would fund equipment replacement and lender reduction. Workers would elect 2 board representatives, and Plains Meridian could approve the restructuring officer. Dana held up both proposals. Meridian Access gives me certainty. You give me conditions. I give you a functioning business after the transaction. You give me a smaller company with damaged trust. The other offer leaves everyone else with the liabilities. Sarah showed that warehouse costs, employee claims, and litigation reserves made Tyler's fast sale less certain than it appeared. Dana looked at me. Who leads the trust? Not me. You are challenging the ownership documents. But you do not want control. I want my identity cleared and the false guarantee removed. Northline needs leadership without family leverage. Dana gave us 10 calendar days, only a delay. Bring me binding worker participation, credible management, and financing that survives review, she said. Otherwise, the bank proceeds with the sale. Tyler called 20 minutes later. You just risked liquidation to prove a point. I gave the lender another option. You gave them a fantasy. You gave them contracts stripped away from the people who service them. The buyer will keep valuable employees. Which employees? Meridian Access had promised interviews, not jobs, if your plan fails. Tyler said, Warehouse 1 closes too. Remember that when people miss rent. Eli met me that night beside a closed truck repair shop. Tyler had removed him from refrigeration supervision and cut his overtime. I handed him the trust proposal. You appoint the first board. He asked, no, you choose the manager. No, you keep special veto rights. No, what do you get? Protection from the guarantee if the lender accepts the restructuring. Whatever remains of my investment after secured claims. No management role. He studied me. That is not the answer you would have given a month ago. No, what changed? I learned that saving Northline and owning it are not the same thing. Eli tapped the employee governance section. 2 board seats mean nothing if management can overrule workers on safety. The draft gave workers no independent shutdown authority, no written safety power, no organizing, he said. I almost argued. Then I remembered the maintenance request stamped defer. Sarah revised the terms. An elected safety committee could request independent inspections and pause affected operations when documented limits were exceeded. Any override required the restructuring officer's written approval. I signed a commitment preventing those protections from being removed during the first 3 years without worker consent. Only then did Eli agree. The employee meeting took place inside an empty loading bay. Portable lights illuminated folding chairs while refrigerated trailers departed outside as nervous customers moved inventory. Eli explained both offers. Tyler's sale promised speed. Meridian Access might hire selected drivers, dispatchers, and account managers. Both warehouses would close. No one had guaranteed seniority, benefits, or maintenance jobs. The trust offered uncertainty. Warehouse 2 would close, some jobs would disappear, and first quarter pay might fall. But Warehouse 1 would stay open, workers would gain board representation, and an independent process would control employment decisions. A driver stood. So our choices are getting cut today or maybe getting cut later. Eli nodded. That is the honest version. The workers divided. Some blamed me for freezing the insurance payment. Others asked why Tyler received a consulting agreement while they received applications. I stayed near the back until Eli called my name. You want us to trust the woman whose expansion money helped create this? A forklift operator asked, no. Read the documents and decide whether this protects you better than Tyler's sale. Will you own us afterward? No, will Brooke? No, then who does? The trust. Workers hold beneficial interests through it. And if the bank takes everything anyway? Then my proposal fails, and Tyler's buyer may remain the only option. There was no applause. That made the meeting real. The vote passed 51-23, with 6 abstentions. Enough workers signed participation commitments to satisfy Dana's first condition. The next morning, Tyler offered Eli $85,000, 6 months of health coverage, and a neutral reference. Eli only had to resign before the examinations under oath and sign a confidentiality agreement covering maintenance records, lender discussions, and the trust. He photographed the offer and sent it to Sarah. He did not sign. Brooke called that afternoon. Tyler says your plan leaves me personally exposed. It may. He says if I support it, he will give the insurer every approval I signed and claim I directed operations. Did you direct the financial transfers or alarm shutdowns? No, then tell the truth under oath. You say that like truth separates into clean pieces. No. It separates responsibility. She went quiet. How many jobs does your plan save? Between 46 and 58 if the cooperative lender confirms. Tyler told everyone the buyer would keep 70. Ask him for that promise in writing. Brooke did not answer. She was beginning to understand that Tyler's plan protected his future first. But helping the trust meant admitting the resignation. Maintenance summaries and insurance timeline were false. Dana received the trust package on the 9th day. Sarah and I joined her by video. 2 binders sat on her desk. The gray binder held Meridian Access's purchase agreement, the blue one held the worker trust, cooperative lender letter, equipment sale plan, safety rules, employee vote, and independent management proposal. Dana placed one hand on each. The sale is certain money with significant residual liabilities, she said. The trust is uncertain money with operating risk. Before she could continue, Sarah's email alert sounded. The freight carrier had completed a deeper retrieval from its archive telemetry servers. Earlier records showed manual alarm acknowledgements. The new archive contained the administrator account, remote session history, and exact timing. At 1:12 a.m., while spoiled cargo was being transferred between warehouse 2 and 3 refrigerated trailers, the alarms were silenced through Tyler's administrator account. They remained disabled for 47 minutes. At 1:59, the same account restored them. Hours later, Northline filed an insurance notice describing a sudden failure discovered only after the alarms activated. Dana lifted her hand from the gray binder. Tyler had not merely ignored the warning, he had turned it off, moved the cargo, turned it back on, and filed the claim as though the system had spoken for the first time. He had turned it off, moved the cargo, turned it back on, and filed the claim as though the system had spoken for the first time. Dana converted the next morning's video conference into a formal lender workout meeting. We met in Plains Meridian's office overlooking rows of idle trailers. Sarah and I sat opposite Tyler and Brooke, who had arrived with separate attorneys. 2 employee representatives waited outside until Dana decided whether Northline still had a business worth transferring. Tyler began first. The employee proposal is not financing. It is an emotional reaction designed by a rejected investor who cannot accept that her family moved forward without her. He called the trust underfunded and praised Meridian Access as the only responsible option. Without the warehouses or most employees, Dana said, Tyler claimed the buyer would retain essential people, but he had no list. He turned toward me. Marlene created this crisis. She challenged the insurance claim, frightened customers, disrupted payroll, and turned a family dispute into a lender emergency. Sarah opened the first binder. The emergency began before Ms. Brooks knew it existed. She displayed the forged resignation, the board minutes showing Brooks' vote, and the logs proving my retired badge entered the finance office while I was in Omaha, Wichita, and St. Louis. Next came the guarantee certificate. my credentials had approved $3.8 million in debt while I stood before 200 witnesses 300 miles away. That proves credential misuse, Tyler said. It does not prove I used them. Sarah changed the screen. More than $310,000 approved for refrigeration equipment had been routed through Vantage Field Advisory, owned by Tyler's former business partner. Then came the maintenance ticket stamped defer, then the two temperature reports. One included early warnings and delayed repairs. The other began hours later and described a sudden failure. Finally, Sarah displayed the recovered telemetry. Tyler's administrator login appeared at 1:12 a.m., alarms disabled. 47 minutes later, alarms restored. Administrator credentials were shared, Tyler said. By whom? The insurer's attorney asked. Tyler looked at Brooke. That was his final defense, not innocence. Distribution. Brooke approved the expansion, the resignation, and the revised summaries, he said. Every major operational decision went through her. Brooke stared at him. You told me the lender required Marlene's removal. And you voted. You told me Vantage managed procurement. And you approved payments. You said the alarms were false. You were chief executive officer. Tyler leaned back. If anyone calls these decisions criminal, Brooke's responsibility is at least equal to mine. For years, he had made every decision sound temporary, necessary, and shared. Now shared meant disposable. Dana closed the gray sale binder. This bank is not deciding criminal liability. We are deciding whether either proposal preserves more value than liquidation. Meridian Axis had threatened to withdraw if Tyler lost his consulting agreement. The trust still needed customer commitments, an independent receiver, and proof that no current executive retained control. Without those conditions, it failed. Dana looked at Brooke. Do you stand behind the record submitted to the insurer? Brooke's attorney advised her not to answer. Brooke placed both hands on the table. No. Tyler's head turned. I knew Marlene had not resigned, Brooke said. I voted to accept the resignation because Tyler told me financing would fail while she retained veto authority. Brooke, Tyler warned. She continued, I approved revised maintenance summaries after the first spoilage loss. The originals showed earlier alarms and delayed repairs. I knew the revised versions did not show the complete timeline. The insurer's attorney began writing. Brooke's lawyer requested a recess. No. I have spent months calling delay a correction and concealment a rescue. I did not create Vantage. I did not know Marlene's home had been added to the guarantee. I did not reactivate her badge, and I did not silence the alarms. Brooke reached into her bag and removed a sealed envelope. Tyler stopped smiling. Inside were a printed recovery code and a hardware authentication key. The server administrator account has a recovery archive, she said. Tyler ordered me to keep this off-site after the insurer requested records. He said the backups were corrupted and would confuse the investigation. Why did you keep it? Dana asked. Because I knew I might need proof of what I did not control. She slid the envelope toward the insurer's attorney. Tyler's lawyer objected. Dana ordered it marked and preserved for forensic review. No police entered, but the room changed. Brooke had surrendered the part Tyler believed would remain hidden. Sarah placed a final document before him. It offered cooperation, surrender of authority, preservation of assets, and negotiation of restitution in civil claims. Beside it sat a notice package prepared for the lender's fraud unit, the insurer's investigators, and appropriate authorities. These are not threats, Sarah said. They are the lawful paths created by the evidence. Tyler looked at me. What do you want? A month earlier, I might have wanted Brooke returned to my side and Northline placed under my control. Now the answer was simpler. You do not negotiate with me. I can restore your shares. They are already mine. I can release the guarantee. You do not own my signature. His jaw tightened. You want to destroy me. I want you removed from every position that lets you decide who absorbs your risk. Tyler pushed Sarah's proposal away. If the bank rejects the sale, everyone loses. Dana corrected him. If the bank approves your sale, you receive a consulting agreement while the residual company keeps the liabilities. A restructuring specialist contacted the two waiting customers while a tractor pulled one of Northline's trailers from the yard. She returned with two conditional letters. The hospital distributor would remain if an independent receiver controlled operations, warehouse 2 closed, and verified temperature systems were installed. The grocery cooperative would keep a reduced contract if the employee trust received the business, and Tyler, Brooke, and I held no management authority. Brooke. Read the condition twice. I understand. Tyler did not. You are removing the only executives who know the operation. Eli's transition plan identified supervisors, dispatchers, customer managers, and maintenance leads who could operate Warehouse 1 under a restructuring officer. Northline had never depended on only 3 people. Tyler had benefited from making everyone believe it did. Dana called the employee representatives inside only after Tyler signed an acknowledgement suspending his authority pending appointment of a receiver. Eli entered with the forklift operator from the loading bay meeting. They read every page before signing the trust confirmation. Dana announced the decision: Plains Meridian would cancel approval of the Meridian Axis sale. An independent receiver would take immediate control of Northline's accounts, systems, contracts, and facilities. Tyler's access would end that day. Brooke would retain no executive authority but could cooperate with the receiver and investigators. The lender would support a conditional transfer of Warehouse 1, selected equipment, and approved contracts to the employee ownership trust if financing closed within 30 days. Warehouse 2 would close and its usable assets would be sold. The insurer would continue investigating. Any criminal referral or charges would be decided later by the appropriate authorities. Then Dana turned to me. Plains Meridian will not enforce the personal guarantee against you while the forgery investigation proceeds. Based on the current evidence, we expect to release your home and personal accounts once authentication is complete. I had imagined those words as freedom. They felt quieter than I expected. Dana continued, your ownership claim will be recognized in the restructuring reserve. But after secured debt, payroll obligations, equipment losses, professional fees, and trust financing, projected recovery to you is between 35 and 43% of your original investment. My $420,000 had helped create Northline. I might recover less than half. Tyler lost control. The insider sale was dead. My home was moving beyond his reach, and revenge did not return what betrayal had already consumed. The receiver took control of Northline before Tyler reached the parking lot. His access card, company phone, expense account, and administrator credentials were disabled. The insurer preserved his devices and referred the telemetry, reports, and server archive for further investigation. Plains Meridian began recovery proceedings against accounts connected to the diverted maintenance funds. No one arrested Tyler in the conference room. There was no conviction before sunset. His assets were restricted while lawyers argued over what belonged to Northline, its creditors, and the restitution fund. His legal outcome remained unresolved. But his authority ended that day. Brooke surrendered her equity 2 weeks later. In 3 sworn interviews, she admitted voting for the false resignation, approving incomplete maintenance summaries, and concealing the recovery key. She denied creating the forged guarantee or directing the alarm shutdown, and server records supported part of that denial. Cooperation did not erase what she had done. She signed a long-term restitution agreement that directed part of her future earnings into the recovery fund. She surrendered any claim to Northline, its equipment, and the insurance proceeds. Tyler filed for separation before the month ended. Their house was sold under pressure from legal fees and debt. Brooke moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. She lost her title, marriage, home, and the professional reputation that once opened doors before she entered a room. Northline lost things too. Warehouse 2 closed permanently. Its usable compressors, shelving, generators, and dock equipment were sold. Every surviving contract was renegotiated around Warehouse 1's reduced capacity. Of the 80 employees Tyler had used as a shield, 52 remained. That number was both success and failure. 28 people still lost jobs. Some blamed Tyler. Some blamed Brooke. A few blamed me for forcing the truth into the open before another rescue was guaranteed. I did not argue with them. 6 months after the warranty call, Northline reopened under employee trust ownership. the receiver removed the old corporate seal from the office wall, leaving 4 pale screw marks. Workers installed a new ownership plaque listing the elected safety committee and 2 worker board representatives. My name appeared nowhere. That was where it belonged. My first restructuring distribution was less than 40% of the $420,000 I had invested. More might come from insurance or civil recovery, it might not. To protect my retirement, I sold the small lake property my husband and I had bought 21 years earlier. Since his death, I had visited twice and kept paying taxes because selling it felt like closing a door he might still walk through. The sale covered my legal costs and kept me from treating Northline as the answer to my financial fear. Sarah asked whether I regretted fighting. No. Do you regret investing? I took longer. I regret believing generosity gave me permanent authority. That truth had been waiting beneath every argument with Brooke. I paid school bills, helped with rent, introduced her to lenders, and invested in her company. Then I treated each gift like another vote in decisions that belonged to her. I never demanded obedience aloud, I simply made disagreement expensive, recognizing that did not make Brooke innocent. It made my part mine. Brooke asked to see me after her 3rd interview. We met in Sarah's conference room with the door open. I found a job, she said. It was an entry-level documentation job with an unrelated freight broker. She checked delivery records and reported to a younger supervisor. No title? I asked. No office. No family connection. No authority over money. How does that feel? Humiliating. I waited, and necessary. She asked whether she could return to Northline someday, not in management. I did not ask for management. You were about to. Her eyes dropped, the old rhythm remained. She wanted reassurance. I wanted to decide her future before she could make another mistake. This time, I stopped. You need a life that does not depend on me placing you somewhere. She nodded. We agreed to 1 supervised conversation each month. No surprise visits, money requests, or discussion of active legal strategy. Restitution would continue whether our relationship improved or not. It was not forgiveness. It was a structure strong enough to hold 2 people who no longer trusted their instincts around each other. Brooke asked to attend the reopening ceremony. Eli brought the request to the worker board. The answer was no. Employees said her presence beside the new plaque would turn their ownership ceremony into another family event. Others remembered safety complaints she had ignored. She called me after the vote. Can you speak to them? I already did. And? I told them the decision belonged to the trust. You could change their minds. Maybe. Will you? No. Silence stretched between us. You are choosing them over me. I am refusing to use influence to protect you from a consequence you earned. For a moment, I expected anger. Instead, she said, I understand. She did not attend. I watched workers raise the loading bay door at 9 that Saturday. The repaired refrigeration system came online without alarms. Eli stood beside the new safety committee while the independent manager reviewed the first shipment. No speeches about family were made. No one thanked me for saving Northline. The workers had saved what remained by accepting risk. Reduced hours, stricter controls, and ownership of problems they had not created. I attended as a creditor and former investor. Then I left before lunch. A month later, Eli called. The trust board had approved Brooke for 1 supervised shift helping with archived delivery records. She would have no finance access, management duties, or keys. A compliance clerk would remain beside her. They did not approve this for you, he said. I know. They approved it because her cooperation helped recover the server archive and protect the remaining contracts. I understand. Do you? He had earned the right to ask. Yes. On the morning of the shift, Brooke waited outside the same gate where Tyler had once barred me. She did not call for special treatment. She waited until Eli arrived. I stood beside him. Brooke looked at the ownership plaque. I thought you would be inside, she said. I do not work here. Eli handed me a visitor badge and a scanner. The badge was valid for 1 shift. 18 months earlier, Brooke had promised me a permanent seat. Now neither of us held a title, office, or key. I gave her the badge. This does not restore anything. I know. It does not mean the workers trust you. I know. And it does not cancel restitution. I know. She clipped the badge to her jacket. During the shift, Brooke reviewed shipping records under supervision. When she found a temperature entry that did not match the carrier timestamp, she flagged it instead of correcting it quietly. The clerk verified the discrepancy and logged the change. No one praised her. That mattered. Trust built for applause disappears when the room becomes quiet. At 4, Brooke returned the scanner to Eli. Then she removed the visitor badge and placed it in my palm. May I come back next month? I looked at the gate, the plaque, and the warehouse that no longer belonged to Tyler, Brooke, or me. One verified day at a time, I said. She nodded and walked toward the parking lot. I watched her leave through the same gate from which I had once been excluded.